Dr. Lisa Martinez had been working at the remote research station for 3 years, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. The small spacecraft landed with barely a whisper on the landing pad, its silver surface gleaming under the twin suns of planet Kepler 442b. Inside was humanity's first alien visitor. The airlock hissed open, and out stepped the most extraordinary being Lisa had ever seen. The alien girl looked almost human, but her skin had a strange, shimmering quality that seemed to change colors like an oil slick. She was tall and graceful, with large eyes that sparkled with intelligence and curiosity. "Hello," Lisa said slowly, knowing the alien couldn't understand her yet. She pointed to herself. "Lisa." The alien girl tilted her head, and suddenly her skin began to glow with soft patterns of light. Blues and greens rippled across her arms and face like living artwork. It was beautiful, but Lisa had no idea what it meant. The research team had been preparing for this day for months. They knew the alien's name was Zara, and she belonged to a species called the Altarians. These beings lived on a planet far from Earth and had their own unique way of communicating through patterns of light that danced across their skin. Lisa led Zara through the station's corridors. The alien girl's eyes were wide with wonder as she took in everything around her. Every few seconds, new patterns of light would flash across her skin, probably her way of expressing amazement or asking questions that no one could answer. They reached the medical bay where Lisa's team was waiting. Dr. James Park, the station's technology specialist, held up a small device no bigger than a grain of rice. This was the universal translator implant that would allow Zara to understand and speak human languages. "Okay, Zara," Lisa said gently, even though she knew the alien couldn't understand her words. She gestured to the tiny chip in James's hand, then pointed to her own head near her ear. "This goes inside. It will help us talk to each other." The moment Lisa made the gesture of putting something inside her head, Zara's entire body erupted in bright red and orange lights. She stumbled backward, her eyes wide with what could only be described as horror and shock. The light patterns racing across her skin were so intense and rapid that they almost hurt to look at. "Whoa! Whoa!" Lisa held up her hands, trying to calm the frightened alien. "It's okay, it's safe." But Zara was clearly anything but okay. She was backing away from the medical equipment, her skin now pulsing with angry reds and deep purples. She kept pointing at the tiny translator chip and then at her own head, shaking it vigorously from side to side. The research team exchanged worried glances. This was not going according to plan at all. They had expected some nervousness, maybe, some questions about the procedure, but not this level of panic and distress. Lisa tried a different approach. She sat down on the floor, making herself less threatening, and patted the ground beside her. After a long moment, Zara slowly approached, and sat down too, though she kept her distance. "I don't understand what's wrong," Lisa said softly, more to herself than to Zara. "It's just a tiny computer chip. It won't hurt you." Zara's skin was still glowing with distressed colors, but the patterns were slower now, more controlled. She seemed to be trying to communicate something important, but without a translator it was impossible to understand. Dr. Park pulled out his tablet and started typing furiously. "I'm checking our files on Altarian culture," he said. "Maybe we missed something important." Meanwhile, Zara had gotten up and was now trying to act out something. She pointed to herself, then to Lisa, then made a gesture that looked like she was putting something inside her body. Then she shook her head violently and made what seemed like very dramatic negative gestures. "She really doesn't want anything put inside her," observed Dr. Amy Chen, the team's cultural specialist. "But we don't know why." Lisa watched as Zara continued her desperate pantomime. The alien girl seemed to be trying to explain something very important about her culture, but the language barrier was making it impossible. The situation was becoming more complicated by the minute. In just 2 days, an entire Altarian diplomatic fleet would arrive at Earth, expecting successful first contact to have been established. The leaders of both worlds were counting on this meeting to go smoothly. But without the translator implant, meaningful communication would be impossible. Lisa looked at the distressed alien girl, whose skin was still flickering with worried colors. Whatever was causing Zara's reaction, it was clearly something very serious in her culture. The question was, could they figure out what it was and find a solution before the diplomatic fleet arrived? The clock was ticking, and the future of human-alien relations hung in the balance. What had seemed like a simple medical procedure had turned into their first major cultural crisis, and nobody knew how to solve it. The next morning brought no easy answers. Lisa had spent half the night reading everything she could find about Altarian culture, but most of the information was basic stuff about their planet and technology. Nothing explained why Zara had such a strong reaction to the translator implant. Zara had been given her own room in the station, and when Lisa checked on her, she found the alien girl sitting by the window, staring out at the strange landscape of the planet. Her skin was a calm blue-green now, but Lisa could see flickers of other colors appearing and disappearing like thoughts crossing her mind. "Good morning, Zara," Lisa said softly, stepping into the room. Zara turned and her skin immediately brightened, with what looked like happiness. She stood up and bowed slightly, which seemed to be her way of saying hello back. Lisa had brought a tray of different foods, hoping to find something Zara could eat. She set it down on the table and gestured for Zara to try them. The alien girl approached cautiously and sniffed each item. She picked up a piece of fruit and took a small bite. Her skin exploded with golden sparkles of what was obviously delight. At least that was going well. But they still had the bigger problem to solve. Dr. Park arrived with his arms full of equipment. "I've been thinking about this all night," he said. "Maybe we can find another way to communicate with her." He set up a holographic projector and started showing Zara pictures of different objects, hoping she might recognize some universal concepts. When he showed her images of the translator chip going into a human head, her skin immediately flashed red again. But this time Zara didn't run away. Instead, she seemed determined to make them understand something. She started acting out an elaborate scene using gestures and her changing skin colors to tell some kind of story. First, she pointed to herself and made her skin glow with soft, romantic pinks and purples. Then she gestured to an imaginary other person and did something strange. She pretended to take something from inside her own body and offer it to this invisible partner. "What is she doing?" Dr. Park asked, confused. Lisa watched carefully as Zara continued her performance. Now the alien girl was acting out the reverse. The imaginary partner was offering something to put inside Zara's body, and she was accepting it with the same romantic pink and purple lights. "I think," Lisa said, slowly, "I think she's showing us some kind of bonding ritual. Like marriage or something." Zara nodded enthusiastically when she heard the word marriage, even though she couldn't understand its meaning. She pointed to Lisa, then to herself, then made the gesture of putting something inside her body again. This time her skin flashed, with embarrassed reds and what looked like shock. "Oh no," Dr. Park said, understanding dawning on his face. "She thinks we're trying to marry her." Lisa felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Now Zara's extreme reaction made perfect sense. In her culture, allowing someone to put something inside your body wasn't just a medical procedure. It was apparently one of the most intimate acts possible. "We need to show her that's not what we mean," Lisa said quickly. She grabbed some paper and started drawing stick figures. She drew a human head with the tiny chip inside, then drew sound waves coming out of the person's mouth to another person. She was trying to show that the chip was just for communication, not for any kind of bonding ritual. Zara studied the drawings carefully, her skin flickering through different colors as she processed this new information. Gradually, the angry reds faded away, replaced by curious yellows and thoughtful blues. But even though she seemed to understand that the humans weren't trying to perform some kind of marriage ceremony, she was still clearly uncomfortable with the idea of the implant. "Doctor." Amy Chen had been quietly observing everything. Now she stepped forward with her own tablet. "What if we approach this differently?" she said. "Instead of trying to convince her to accept our solution, maybe we should ask her what would work for her culture." She pulled up a program that could analyze the light patterns on Zara's skin and try to find mathematical relationships in them. It was a long shot, but maybe they could start to decode her language. Zara became very excited when she saw what they were trying to do. She began making deliberate light patterns, slowly and clearly, as if she was trying to teach them her language. She would make a pattern, then point to an object, then repeat the pattern. For the first time since her arrival, Lisa felt a spark of hope. Maybe they were finally starting to make real progress, but with less than 36 hours until the diplomatic fleet arrived, they were running out of time fast. The breakthrough they needed was still just out of reach, and everyone could feel the pressure building. By the third day, something amazing was starting to happen. Lisa and her team had been working around the clock with Zara, and they were finally beginning to understand each other. Dr. Park had made a major breakthrough with his light pattern analysis program. He discovered that Zara's skin changes followed mathematical sequences, almost like a visual language with grammar and structure. It was incredibly complex, but patterns were emerging. "Look at this," he said excitedly, showing Lisa his tablet screen filled with colorful charts. When she's happy, she uses these spiral patterns. When she's confused, the lights move in zigzag lines. And when she's trying to ask a question, there's always this little flash of white at the end. Lisa felt a surge of excitement. So we might actually be able to build a translation system that works with her light language instead of requiring an implant. Exactly. Instead of putting something inside her, we create something that reads her skin patterns and translates them into speech. And it works the other way too. It can project light patterns onto a screen to show her what we're saying. When they showed Zara the new system, her entire body erupted in the most beautiful display of golden lights they had ever seen. She was clearly overjoyed. The first test was simple. Lisa pointed to herself and said her name. The machine translated this into light patterns and projected them onto a screen. Zara's skin immediately mimicked the same pattern. Then she pointed to herself and created a completely different light sequence. "Zara," said the computer's voice as it translated her lights back into English. Everyone in the room cheered. They had done it. They had found a way to communicate that respected Zara's culture while still allowing them to talk to each other. Over the next few hours, their conversations became more and more sophisticated. Zara was incredibly intelligent and learned quickly. Soon she was asking questions about human culture, and the team was finally getting answers to their questions about hers. "Your bonding rituals," Lisa said carefully, watching the translation appear as light patterns on the screen. "When two people share something inside their bodies, this is very special for your people." Zara's response came back as gentle, warm colors that the computer translated. "Yes. When Altarians choose life partners, they exchange biocrystals that grow inside their hearts. It connects their life forces forever. To ask someone to accept something inside their body, it is like asking them to marry you." Lisa felt her cheeks turn red with embarrassment. "We had no idea. We were just trying to help you understand our language." "I know this now," Zara's lights replied. "Your people are kind. You create new ways when old ways do not work. This shows great wisdom." Dr. Amy Chen had been quietly taking notes throughout all of this. Now she looked up with an important question. "Zara, tomorrow your people's ships will arrive. Will they understand that we respect your culture? Will they trust this new translation method?" Zara's skin shifted to thoughtful blues and purples as she considered this. "My people will be impressed. You could have forced me to accept your customs, but instead you learned mine. This shows honor. They will want to learn from you too." That evening, as they prepared for the arrival of the Altarian fleet, Lisa felt a mix of relief and excitement. What had started as a disaster had turned into something wonderful. Not only had they solved the communication problem, but they had learned valuable lessons about respecting other cultures. "You know," Dr. Park said as they ran final tests on the translation system, "this technology could revolutionize how we communicate with other alien species too. Instead of forcing everyone to use our methods, we can adapt our technology to work with their natural abilities." Zara overheard this, and her skin lit up with approval. Through the translator, she said, This is the beginning of something beautiful. My people have a saying. True friendship grows when different rivers learn to flow together without losing their own song. Lisa smiled as she watched the gentle, flowing patterns of light dance across Zara's skin. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as they met with the Altarian diplomatic fleet. But tonight she felt confident that they had laid a strong foundation for friendship between their species. The cultural crisis that had nearly destroyed first contact had instead become the key to building something much better than anyone had originally imagined. Sometimes the biggest problems led to the most amazing solutions. The morning of the fourth day brought an incredible sight. 5 massive Altarian ships appeared in the sky, their surfaces shimmering with the same beautiful light patterns that danced across Zara's skin. They were unlike anything humans had ever seen, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with life. Lisa stood next to Zara on the station's observation deck watching the ships descend. Through their new translation system, she could see that Zara's skin was showing patterns of excitement mixed with nervousness. "Are you worried about how your people will react to our solution?" Lisa asked. Zara's response appeared as flowing. Lights on the translation screen. "Not worried. Curious. My people expected me to return speaking your language through an implant. Instead, I return with something much more interesting, a way for both our species to communicate while staying true to ourselves." The lead ship landed gracefully on the expanded landing pad that the team had prepared. Lisa felt her heart racing as the airlock opened. This was it, the moment that would determine the future of human-Altarian relations. The first being to emerge was clearly someone important. She was taller than Zara, with skin that showed more complex light patterns. Behind her came several other Altarians, each one displaying their own unique combination of colors and designs. Zara stepped forward and began what was obviously a formal greeting. Her skin erupted in elaborate patterns that Lisa had never seen before, complex geometric designs mixed with flowing organic shapes. The translation system worked overtime, converting her lights into words. "Honored Elder Kira, I present my human friends. They have shown great wisdom and respect for our ways." The elder's response was equally formal, but Lisa could see warmth in the patterns. "Young Zara, we have watched from our ships and seen the beautiful lights of communication flowing between you and these humans. Show us this new wonder you have created together." What followed was the most amazing demonstration Lisa had ever been part of. Zara and the elder had a full conversation using their natural light language, while the translation system converted everything into English for the humans to understand. At the same time, when Lisa or her team spoke, their words became light patterns that the Altarians could read. Elder Kira's skin showed what was clearly amazement. "This is remarkable. You have created a bridge between our languages that honors both. This shows great intelligence and cultural sensitivity." Dr. Park stepped forward, practically glowing with pride in their achievement. "We realized that forcing Zara to change her natural communication method would be like asking her to forget part of who she was. Instead, we adapted our technology to work with her gifts." The elder's response made everyone smile. "You have learned, in 4 days, what some species take years to understand. True cooperation means finding new paths that work for everyone." Over the next several hours, the humans gave the Altarians a complete tour of their research station. The aliens were fascinated by human technology, especially how different it was from their own bio-based systems. Meanwhile, the humans were amazed by the Altarian devices that seemed to be grown rather than built. "Our tools are living things," Elder Kira explained through the translator. "We grow them from special crystals and train them to help us. Your tools are built from non-living materials but given intelligence through programming. Both approaches have their strengths." Lisa found herself in deep conversation with Zara about their respective cultures. Through the translation system, they could finally have the detailed discussions that had been impossible before. "What was the hardest part for you?" Lisa asked. "When we first showed you the implant?" Zara's skin showed thoughtful patterns. "The hardest part was not the fear but the sadness. I thought your people did not care about understanding us. I thought you only wanted us to become like you. When I realized you were willing to create something new instead of forcing your soul, Old ways I felt hope for the first time. And what do you think now? Now I think our peoples will be great friends. You have shown that you can adapt and grow. My people value this quality above all others. As the day progressed, something wonderful began happening. The humans and Altarians started working together on various projects, combining their different approaches to solve problems neither could handle alone. Dr. Amy Chen collaborated with an Altarian scientist to improve the translation system even further. The Altarians' bio-intuitive approach combined with Amy's technical knowledge created improvements that neither could have achieved alone. Elder Kira pulled Lisa aside for a private conversation. Young human leader, your people have impressed us greatly. We came here expecting a simple exchange of ambassadors. Instead, we have found partners who understand the true meaning of cooperation. What happens now? Lisa asked. Now we build something beautiful together. My people will establish a permanent research station here, and we would be honored to have some of your people visit our world. This is the beginning of a friendship that will benefit both our species for generations to come. As the sun set, on this historic day, Lisa looked out at the Altarian ships now permanently stationed alongside the human research facility. What had started as a cultural misunderstanding had blossomed into something no one had dared to hope for. 6 months had passed since that historic first contact, and the research station had transformed into something amazing. What was once a small human outpost had become a thriving center of interspecies cooperation. Lisa walked through the expanded complex, marveling at how much had changed. Altarian biostructures grew alongside human buildings, creating a unique architectural blend that was both beautiful and functional. The living walls pulsed with gentle light patterns, while traditional human technology hummed quietly in the background. Zara had returned as the official Altarian ambassador, and she had become Lisa's closest friend. Their communication had evolved far beyond the translation system they had created. Lisa had learned to read basic Altarian light patterns, while Zara had become fluent in several human languages. The morning briefing is ready, Zara said, her skin showing cheerful yellow patterns that Lisa now recognized as her friend's version of a smile. They walked together to the main conference room, where humans and Altarians worked side by side on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. The translation screens still flickered around the room, but they were used, less and less as both species learned to understand each other naturally. Dr. Park had become something of a celebrity in the scientific community. The adaptive translation technology he had developed with Zara was now being used to communicate with 3 other alien species that had made contact since the Altarians. Each new species brought their own communication challenges, and each time, the humans learned to adapt their technology rather than forcing others to change. The most exciting part, he explained to a group of visiting scientists from Earth, is that we've learned that diversity in communication actually makes us all smarter. When we combine human logical thinking with Altarian intuitive pattern recognition, we solve problems that neither species could handle alone. Lisa's favorite part of the new arrangement was the cultural exchange program. Human children now learned alongside young Altarians, discovering that despite their differences, they had much in common. The Altarian youngsters were fascinated by human games and stories, while human children loved creating art with light patterns. "Look what I made," called out 10-year-old Tommy, one of the human children in the exchange program. His Altarian partner, a young alien named Kai, had taught him to use a bioluminescent painting kit. The result was a swirling masterpiece that combined human artistic vision with Altarian light technology. Elder Kira had established a permanent council chamber where representatives from both species met regularly to plan joint projects. They were working on everything from environmental restoration techniques to new forms of space travel that combined the best of both technologies. "The success here has exceeded all our hopes," Elder Kira told Lisa during one of their regular meetings. "Other Altarian colonies have heard about our partnership and want to establish similar relationships with human settlements. And it all started with a misunderstanding about a translator implant." Lisa laughed. "The best partnerships often begin with the biggest challenges," the elder replied, her skin showing warm, contented patterns. When people are forced to really understand each other, the relationships they build are much stronger than those that come easily. One of Lisa's proudest achievements was the new protocol they had established for first contact with any new, alien species. Instead of assuming that other beings should adapt to human ways, the new approach emphasized learning about each species' natural communication methods and creating technology that worked with their abilities. We call it the Zara Protocol, Dr. Amy Chen explained to a delegation from Earth's government. Named after our first alien friend, who taught us that true cooperation means adaptation, not domination. Zara herself had become a bridge between the species in ways no one had expected. She spent her time traveling between human and Altarian settlements, teaching both peoples about each other and helping solve problems that arose from cultural differences. The most important lesson, Zara told a group of new human ambassadors, preparing for their first visit to an Altarian world, is to never assume you understand someone else's culture. Always ask questions, always be willing to admit when you don't know something, and always be ready to change your approach when you learn new information. As Lisa stood on the observation deck that evening, watching the sun set over the mixed, human Altarian settlement, she reflected on how much her life had changed. What had started as a routine assignment to manage first contact had become the beginning of a new era for both species. The communication barriers that had once seemed impossible to overcome had become the foundation for the deepest friendship either species had ever known. The translation technology they had developed was now helping dozens of other species communicate and cooperate across the galaxy. But most importantly, they had learned that the key to successful relationships between different peoples wasn't forcing everyone to be the same. It was finding ways to celebrate and work with their differences. Zara joined Lisa on the observation deck, her skin glowing with the soft, peaceful patterns that meant contentment and friendship. "What are you thinking about?" Zara asked. Lisa smiled at her alien friend. "I'm thinking about how lucky we are that you were brave enough to show us there was a better way. And I am thinking how grateful I am that you were wise enough to listen," Zara replied. Together, they watched the stars come out over their shared world, knowing that somewhere among those distant lights, other species were learning the same lesson that had brought them together, that the greatest achievements come not from making others like us, but from learning to appreciate and work with the amazing diversity that makes each species unique. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities that neither species could have imagined alone, but that together they could make real.